everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much everyone for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening right now in the podcast. It is Monday, May 5th, 2025. I wanted to come here and share this story with everybody. Before I continue, I want to say thank you so much to everybody who's listening to the podcast using Spotify. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to follow me on Spotify. You can follow the podcast, so every time I make a new episode, you'll be able to get notification. And of course, thank you so much to everybody who's watching this video right now in YouTube. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, okay? So this story, it's so crazy that I'm gonna come here and speak about another missing person or somebody who went missing some time ago, but she actually has been found and is alive and well. And this is about Audrey Backeberg. That is her name. And let me tell you exactly what happened with her. Wisconsin woman was found alive after missing for 62 years and has no regrets about disappearing. Okay, so it looks like she actually went missing on purpose. Like she disappeared on purpose. It came a time in her life that she just had to drop everything and just go, right? So let me tell you the reasoning behind her disappearing, right? In July 1962, 20-year-old Audrey Backeberg went missing from Reedsburg, Wisconsin. The family's babysitter said she and Aubrey hijacked to Madison on July 7 before they took a Greyhound bus to Indianapolis, according to her missing persons report. The babysitter said she last saw her walking away from the bus stop around the corner. Investigators pursued different leads on the whereabouts for years, but the case eventually went lost, okay? That is the last thing you want when you have somebody who has gone missing. You know, especially if you're a family member, you want the police, you want the agency to be searching for them all the time. The last thing you want to hear is like the case is cold, there's no leads coming in, and we're going to have to kind of like move on to the next case, right? That is the last thing that you want to hear. But eventually this case went cold, right? And that is on Thursday, this past Thursday, when the Sauk County Sheriff's Office announced that she has been located. Audrey Backeberg was located and is alive and well. Imagine that, right? She disappeared of her own will, on her own volition, with no criminal activity or foul play involved, authorities say. The woman, who spent more than 60 years listed as a missing person in Wisconsin, it says here, was living in another state. The case was assigned to Sauk County detective early this year as part of an ongoing review of all cold cases. They said in a release, also said witnesses were re-interviewed or evidence was re-evaluated and new insights were revealed. But the secret to cracking down the case was her sister's ancestry family history profile. Detective Isaac said to the news, that was pretty key in locating death records, census reports, all kinds of data. Ultimately, we came up with an address. Hanson phoned the local sheriff department and asked someone to stop by the address he found. 10 minutes later, Backeberg, now in her 80s, now she's 80 years old, her 80s, she returned the phone call to the detective. And this is exactly what happened. This is why this woman at 20 years old decided to just drop everything and disappear, right? An abusive husband may have been a factor in her disappearance, the detective said, but he promised their conversation will remain private. The sheriff's office also did not disclose what state Backeberg is living in. According to the news, Backeberg had 2 children with a former husband, Ronald, who died in 2006. Hanson confirmed to the news that Backeberg did remarry and has a new last name, and he declined to share. Hansel told the news he notified her family members who had mixed emotions were elated. She sounded happy, they said, confident in her decision and no regrets. So imagine that, right? With the respect of her, because obviously this was her decision, they don't want to share that, but she, from what I heard in another article that I read before I did this, came here to do this video, she tried to get help because she was living in an abusive relationship, like they just said here. And they say back then, right, this happened 60 years ago. I feel like lately, all these cases that they had like a big question mark on them, lately, everything's been brought up to the surface. I think it's timing. I think that, I think it's God just bringing things to the surface. When we were talking about a lot back in December about how everything's being exposed now, things that were done in the dark are being exposed, are being brought to the light, and a lot of these things are coming to surface, right? And how crazy is that? This is an interesting case, because what I was saying was that she was asking for help because she was in an abusive relationship, right? 2 children. She's just 20 years old, had 2 children, right? And one day she had to basically, just make that decision and leave everything behind, basically, and probably to kind of save herself. And some people might look at that and say, how come she didn't think about the kids? Oh, I'm sure she did, right? But sometimes, I don't know what her mindset was, but the main thing that's being released about her, as much as private that they want to keep it, is that she was in an abusive relationship. And now, after 60 years, she's now 80, she says, well, in her 80s, didn't release that information. She said that she has no regrets, and she remarried, has a different last name, and she has no regret. I'm sure for the family, I'm sure that's probably kind of like, they're happy to kind of have an answer to what happened to her, right? But like it said in this article, it's a mixed emotion, right? Your loved one, just after 60 years, it's kind of like, I have no regrets, but I'm sure that family searched for her. I'm sure that family was, sending out flyers, praying for her safe return. And, what she did, with the reasoning behind that, I'm sure she knows. I'm sure it was a tough decision for her to make. Nobody wants to just do something like that. I think I feel like it depends, right, in the type of setting they have in their house. When you don't even have peace in your own house, that's a problem, right? And especially when you think you're let's just say in a marriage, and you have your children, and you are still, you're being abused in an abusive relationship. Not a lot of people can deal with that, right? And it took her, like, she probably asked for help and all of that, like I said, but she took the harsh decision to just drop everything. And now that's the great thing about having somebody else to look at cases, right? Having somebody else to see. It's almost like you give somebody a file and say, let me know what you think of this, right? This cold case, after so many years, 60 years, this cold case, right, went to the hands of detective with, fresh eyes, trying to resolve, cold cases, to bring a solution, to finally get that answer that was missing. And they were able to track it down. I think the ancestry family profile from her sister, that's also a lot of these cold cases that are being resolved now, that we finally get an answer to, has to deal with how people are living their life now, right? Probably back then the internet wasn't like as popular as it is now to go on a website and create a profile, right? Not a lot of people want to share information like that, right? Some people do. They want to find everybody as they can, right? Everybody who's related to them. Some people that you don't want nothing to do with that. But that's also, it helps. All this technology, like I have said before, technology is good and to an extent, right? So it helps somehow. And because, as we know, nothing is private, really. They were able to get that information quickly, and within 10 minutes, they were calling her. How crazy is that, right? I'm laughing because it's just, it's almost like there's that movie Castaway, right? You remember that movie Castaway? I think it came in early 2000. I had seen that movie, probably one of my favorite movies, right? And there's so much meaning in some of the parts in that movie. And I remember this is, what came to mind? Just thinking about cold cases and things that back then people would spend hours and hours trying to find somebody, like I said, use the resources that were available back then to find a missing person. And then now when somebody, 60 years after, everything is advanced, right? And when you have a new set of detectives, going on a website and finding a profile of her sister and calling this missing person within 10 minutes, and it's like, oh, you should go check the address or something. And it was like resolved like that, right? 60-year mystery. Where is this lady? She disappeared. And now we know exactly where she is, and she's good. And what I was talking about Castaway is that there is that image when we see Tom Hanks, I think he was who did the movie, right? He's in that island and he's trying to do fire, right? He's trying to warm himself, create fire. And then after he gets rescued, we see that image of him. I think it was they were doing a press conference and he's like behind in the hotel or something. And there's like a thing to, an igniter thing that people use on the barbecue, right? And he keeps flipping it on and off because it's so quick, right? To just get what you were like struggling to get back then when you were in the island with like limited resources. And that's the image that came to mind just talking about this case, right? So let me know, guys, what you think about this. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening in the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless. Hi everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day everybody. God bless.